上海疫情持续扩散，新闻发布会通报4015人被隔离。恒大地产战投转股完成，全国广深国资鼎力支持。大丰收变大挑战，中共党媒称粮食储备挑战大。消息称，中共国正加大印度大米进口力度。中共地产发展圈钱，华夏幸福发永续债将破100亿。美国务院正式宣布退出开放天空条约，中共外交部回应，动辄退约不是大国应有的态度。美方近日秘密访谈，中共外交部回应，坚决反对美台来往。美海军最高级别上将斯蒂勒曼秘密访谈。中共党媒抹黑川普总统G20视频峰会，刷推特。上海机场核筛检测，场面拥挤混乱。上海孙桥川阳新苑小区出现新冠疑似病例，居民被要求居家隔离，封闭管理。内蒙古海拉尔市民众室内排长龙扎堆做核酸检测。邯郸市刘旺村遭政府强征，村民抗议被大批黑警武装镇压。福建福鼎遭旱灾，居民排队接水用水。
还需要那个碰头费。
碰头费？
对，需要碰头。
暖气碰头费啊？暖气碰头费啊？对。暖气哪个的碰头啊？
是不允许收的，但是各地这个我是知道了，是各地方有各地方的情况好像是不一样，还有个，但是这个具体的问题我没有见到，但是
没有见到你
啊，我还是没有啊，开发商是自建的，肯定是这成本是有的，是不？但是我没有然后这个合入到这个房价里面。
很多条小区绿地绿化率的叉叉，小区市政道路叉叉，规划车位叉叉，违约也是叉。
宣传只是宣传部分，它只是个宣传的图册。宣传我后期可能会有变动。
这个新冠啊，这个东西啊，它是最不利于欧美的，最有利于朝鲜和中国的，所以咱还死了4000人，是吧？但是你死4000人和美国死22万人比，你等于一个人都没死嘛，对吧？咱们等于差不多也是接近零感染，接近零死亡，14亿人死了4000人，那根本就等于没人得病，没人死嘛。就这你看，现在还有这么多人戴口罩，你看，咱们这你看还有多少人还在这戴口罩？ 哎呀，我刚从美国回来上个月，哇，真是回来我都懵了，这么多人还在戴口罩。在美国大家都在吃喝玩乐，你只管死人，我们照吃喝玩乐。哎，这中国你看，中国经济、全球经济，中国现在一枝独秀，中国超过美国时间提前了。2027年没有问题，美国活不成了，美国活不成。我现在在讲一下，就是在座所有的人，我们不是你们14亿中国人几乎都认识不到这一点，不是中国在整，不是美国在整中国，是我们把美国逼得活不下去了。
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo held talks with the Taliban and Afghan government in a bid to speed up their peace talks. In separate meetings with representatives in Qatar on Saturday, Pompeo discussed ways to reduce violence in Afghanistan and reach a permanent ceasefire. The two sides have hinted progress has been made. They began negotiations for the first time 2 months ago to end the decades-long conflict. Pompeo's visit comes as the U.S. announced it will withdraw its troops from Afghanistan amid continuing violence in the country.
What's your reaction to all of this from your role in the Intelligence Committee? And does social media play a role here?
Well, a couple of quick thoughts. Number one, in any close election, whether it's a local mayor's race or a congressional race, elections don't get called. You know, we have several races in the United States right now for Congress that haven't been called yet. So that's the first issue. Secondly, if any of this technology is touching the internet and the web, that's very concerning. You know, as people, I've been drugged through this 4 years of Russia, they interfered with the election. You know, we worked hard to make sure there were paper ballots. Now, if some of that technology was touching the web, that's a concern. Look, this is a very close election. It's in Joe Biden's best interest and his overlord Obama that sits a mile from the White House, like we talked in the last segment. They ought to be the ones that are asking for every vote to be legally counted, because you have to remember,
right,
the Democrats got smashed in this election. They got destroyed at the state level, the local level, congressional level, and the Senate level, assuming that we win these 2 seats in Georgia. So this is a guy who's limping into the presidency, was the first guy to run a successful campaign from a basement without actually going out and intermingling with the people.
Congressman Kevin McCarthy was unanimously reelected as leader of the House Republicans this week after the GOP flipped 12 seats and diversified victories for incoming women, veterans, and minorities. What does the new face of the House Republicans look like?
Well, the faces looks very tremendous. I mean, we've had more women than at any time serving in Congress. The Republican Party really have made great gains. Not only did we flip 12, there are 4 more races out there, and we're ahead in all 4 of them. So I expect as the week progresses that we'll end up somewhere around 212, 213 seats. It only takes 218 for a majority. This will be the closest of a majority that at any time since World War II. And really, nobody saw this coming. The American people have now rejected Nancy Pelosi and the Democrat socialist policies. The next 2 years are going to be about the Republican commitment versus the Democrats' agenda. Well, when we talk about policy, another reason why the Democrats lost, their agenda to defunding the police just didn't play, where the Republicans had a commitment to America, to make our streets safe, to defeat this virus, to rebuild our infrastructure, to end our dependency on the China infrastructure. That's the agenda we will move forward, and we'll be looking to get 5 to 6 more Democrats to join with us, and then we'll be able to run the floor. That's the difference. We have a commitment. Theirs has a simple agenda that defunds the police, discredits and the American public, and I just don't see that that sells going forward. This is a socialist agenda.
As the court of media opinion continues to insist no evidence to real-time data showing election irregularities in the 2020 election, Executive Director of Look Ahead America and former data chief for the Trump campaign, Matt Brainerd, has been doing some data legwork.
And we've also been able to find a significant number of double voters. So people who cast ballots in multiple states. And we expect those numbers to continue to rise as states release more data regarding people who turned out to vote on Election Day. But one thing that has stuck out like a sore thumb, I would say, is in the state of Wisconsin, where we discovered something we weren't even really looking for. We just came across it. Is that historically, the number of people who've requested an absentee ballot on the basis of being indefinitely confined each election has been around 1,000, sometimes less. What's unique about this request, though, is it's the only way to get an absentee ballot without having to show an ID. Yet this cycle, for some reason, there are over 200,000 requests and ballots cast under the indefinitely confined ballot status. So it's, I think, a pretty clear sign of some illegal activity. That is, I think, grounds to deny certification of that state.
Left-wing censorship is alive and well in America's school system. A prestigious school in La Jolla, California, forces one of its students to remove a Make America Great Again hat. School leaders at La Jolla Country Day School claim the MAGA hat was, quote, offensive to our community. The head of the school, Gary Cron, later posted a video in response to the incident, stating that the hat was a symbol of racism and hatred.
When I approached the student, I shared with him that he had that right to wear the hat. I also shared with him the impact it has on our community. That hat has a symbol of racism and hatred.
All this with parents paying close to $40,000 a year for their children to be strong-armed into obedience by Marxist teachers. One America News has received numerous complaints from parents in the community, many of whom are now threatening to pull their children out of La Jolla Country Day School. In a final statement, Gary Cron added that the school will continue to honor the First Amendment, which apparently means just as long as students only share opinions the school's left-wing leadership agrees with.
Now I want to bring on a rising media star. She's already one of the great doctors around about the virus from Hong Kong University, one of the greatest centers for the study of this, the study of SARS and obviously COVID-19, which is essentially SARS-2, and a hero who defected from China, from Hong Kong, at a big risk to her personally, to come to the United States and spread the gospel of the true truth about the CCP virus. It would be Dr. Li Ming Yan from Hong Kong University. Dr. Yan, thank you very much for joining us here on War and Pandemic. You are the central focus of a major piece in the New York Times, the paper of record of our beloved country. And this talks about your journey from Hong Kong University to the United States and the message you brought about the origins of this virus and what you know for being in the reference lab. I noticed that they failed to put in here any of the timeline and what people gave them about what you knew as a witness of fact for what the CCP knew and when they knew it. I spent a lot of time going through the timeline with you and what you knew. Of course, none of that went in there, obviously, because it's all fake news. But they did make a bunch of kind of aspersions to your research, et cetera. The one thing, and we only got one segment today, we're going to bring you back because I know you've got breaking news on so many other fronts, on CNN and so many other fronts of guys in Europe that you can now walk through, have been given fake news to Lancet and other things. But just in this article, they make a big point about the origins of this virus. I think it's very important to reiterate all the time. In this article, they kind of even more than imply that the scientific community of the world is in a consensus that this came from a bat and somehow got transmitted through the wet market. I want you to go, is that a true statement of what the New York Times is implying there, and that making you seem like you're an outrider to think that this was man-enhanced somehow?
Oh, so thank you for inviting me here. So I want to answer this question. It's very simple. I mean, there is no any evidence can tell the public, the scientific world, that the COVID-19 virus comes from nature. None of the bat and none of the wild animal as the intermediate host. But there really have some evidence, as I show in my report, that this virus is modified after when the China military got the Zhoushan bat coronavirus, make it from not lethal to human to lethal to human. That is gain of function experiment. And why they insist on that is because the China government proposes this all the COVID-19 pandemic from the beginning because they know this is their bioweapon. And also they don't want anyone come out to question it or think about that. And also that's why from early February, actually even from end January, Lancet start to prepare for that paper to show that China government is very good in anti-COVID-19 and also that is come from nature. And also later blame Mr. Trump as a president who cannot do the good job as China. So they all need to use this excuse and just to give people the definition because they are the top scientists. They know when they talk, people will listen to them. And that's how Chinese Communist Party and how the scientific world play with the people. That is very bad behavior.
I want to bring up something that's just come in. They're obviously very nervous that because of you and other heroes like yourself, they know they're having a tough time selling that it came from the Batcave. Now they've taken a very different tact. What they've done the last, I think, 48 or 72 hours, aren't they accusing now Italy that they're saying, oh, that in the sewage system in Italy, this has come up in September. Actually, Italy, they're taking Cuomo. It's actually Italy's the problem. Italy's the problem, not China. Dr. Yan, what do you say about that?
Because the Chinese Communist Party and also all these scientists know their lies easy to be revealed by me and also the report, and also more and more people realize it. And after I reviewed all these things from my 2 scientific reports, they have to find the new evidence to fit their theory that come from nature. And also Chinese Communist Party are very happy to see the paper to indicate any possibility that it may not come from China. And they have already mentioned it come from outer space, come from the Norway salmon, come from the Malaysia pumpkins, come from U.S. military lab. Italy is just one of the example. I think last month it was the Spain wastewater, right? So Italian paper, that paper, I have to say, just have some very poor quality data because these people are not the real serologists in the virology field. And it's easy for them to get false positive result, which is not accurate. And also the evidence they provide is very weak. So they also don't admit that their paper can show the virus come from Italy. They just try to talk about something maybe there is a chance, but also they welcome people's discussion. It's Chinese Communist Party enthusiasm into this paper. WHO enthusiasm into this paper because they are waiting for more evidence can be used to attack the whole world and let people believe it is from the nature and China is in nonsense.
这场是美国总统大选的背后黑手，所有人都想让共产党帮共产党站在一起，原因很简单，他们要3样东西，共产党能给他1样，一个可长期维持他虚假或未来货币的可以合作的独裁政权。这个独裁政权能给他提供什么？能给他提供一个巨大的市场。中国最大的一个在世界金融领域给你最大的一个好处，包括美国人当时说你来上市，我不查你资料，为啥呀？就是你是我最好骗钱的、敛钱的最好的借口。因为你的上市资料我不用查，我想说啥就说啥。你说这好玩吧？游戏啊，兄弟姐妹们，好玩吧？还有说这美国这么严格的这个公司，给一个国家的政权说你来搞来弄我的钱，我不查你资料，你说啥就是啥。你以为他傻呀？是吧？那就是讲中国的故事，你想怎么讲怎么讲。啊，我百度，我流量，我使用者10几个亿啊。我马云，我蚂蚁金服现在几十万亿人民币啊。我几万亿人民币啊，我陆金所10几万亿人民币啊，啊，我一高兴，我晚上睡醒了，双休完了，我弄个0 100万亿啊，你能查吗？你查不了，你来查，有文件，有数据，中国政府的数据从不公开， 啊，还不能核查，也不能第三方。全世界统计啊，最不准确的不是北朝鲜，最神秘的不是北朝鲜，是中共。只有中共的统计局啊，中共的统计局属于国家安全委员会直接领导。说白了，中国人的钱你放哪儿了，存哪儿了，一年赚多少钱，你谁都不能知道。中国老百姓是多可怜啊！这一家人过日子，你们家选了个人啊，咱们战友家现在选了个约翰大叔来给你管钱。约翰大叔戴着墨镜，掂着枪啊，叫人民解放军啊，然后那边领着一帮警察啊，这个钱进多少你永远不能知道，钱去哪由我说了算，我每2小时我销毁一下证据，你说你上哪查去吧？中国人的几十年就这么过来。
美国连续20天记录了每日新增10万例感染病例。尽管感染病例激增，美国仍有数百万人开始感恩节旅行。由于第3季度 GDP 下降了 5.8%， 新加坡再次修改了经济增长预期。美国可能在12月初开始疫苗的接种。韩国报告了271例新增感染，并实施了更严格的限制措施。美国正式退出开放天空条约，该协议允许34个政党国家在彼此领土上进行空中侦察。G20 领导人承诺公平分配冠状病毒疫苗。联合国儿童基金会表示，到2021年将向贫困国家运送20亿剂接种疫苗。
Dear mama, are you okay over there? Your son is crying and missing you, and sees you in his dreams. You sent Drake down to CCP, cause it's God's will, it's God's will. So I'll wait for you, and I'll see you when we end the CCP.